What's up, everybody? Tony Lopez here with Alternative Living Spaces, and in this video I want to let you behind the scenes, and I'm going to share with you some of the negative sides and some of the liabilities in doing RV rentals. You know, in some of my previous videos I talked about some of the positive things, and I'm very pro RV rental, but I also want to be transparent and not paint a picture like everything's perfect. There are certainly some challenges and some obstacles we had to go through that I'm going to share with you in this video. So let's dive right in. Now, when you're renting out your RV, you want to be aware of the risks and the liabilities that you're taking on in doing so. So for us, we primarily use Outdoorsy as our RV rental platform, and we've learned a lot along the way. So first thing to be aware of is you want to make sure that the unit that you're renting out is properly covered by Outdoorsy. So you want to look at all of their terms and conditions, and you can just search that and find it in terms of their insurance, and it'll outline exactly what they cover as well as what they don't cover. For example, if someone rented an RV from us here in Vegas and they took it across the border into Mexico and totaled it in Mexico, it would not be covered. So there are things that you can do to make sure that that is not a problem. Like, we would recommend putting a GPS tracker on your unit so that when someone tells you they're going to Utah, you can just check in and make sure they actually are going to Utah. And ultimately, you can put a kill switch on a vehicle as well. So when they turn off the vehicle and they go to refuel their gas and they go to turn it back on, it doesn't turn back on. Another thing about the terms and conditions with the insurance is while they'll cover the outside damage, a lot of times they will not cover the interior damage. So if you have, say, a Campervan conversion that you did and you spent all this money building it out and someone just straight up wrecked your interior, the only way that gets covered is from the security deposit. So for that reason, we have a high security deposit. You know, previously ours was about $500, and now ours is closer to about $1,000. And that's because we had an instance where someone damaged the interior and we realized, man, Outdoorsy will not go past that to cover interior damage. Given that we've now been using Outdoorsy for about a year, I've gotten a lot more comfortable with some of these terms. I've noticed that if a renter is putting up $1,000 security deposit, they don't want to lose that. So they're very motivated to not mess up the interior of your camper van. So with that, I feel like the risk there are some risks, but for me, it's risks that are worth taking. And I realize, hey, if someone damages the interior, I'm willing to fix it, and that $1,000 in the security deposit is certainly going to help me out. Now, if exterior damage happens, Outdoorsy does cover that, and what you want to do is you want to make sure you report it immediately. They do have terms that say, hey, if you wait, say, 48 hours before reporting it, they can actually not honor the claim that you're making. And you need to make sure that all your paperwork is done properly on the front end of your Outdoorsy rental. You want to check their ID, make sure the person that's picking up the vehicle matches the paperwork and the IDs match. You want to make sure you have all their signatures on the paper and really good before photos, as well as really good after photos where you're trying to make sure you show that that claim and that damage took place during that rental. When it comes to your RV in general, you also want to make sure that you take precautions to make sure that it's a unit that isn't going to get broken into or damaged in ways that might be not the renter's fault. So for example, we have two funny stories. One of them is we went to Berkeley, me and my wife, we were doing a trip, and we went ahead and parked in front of a Walgreens, and it was sketchy. And my wife recognized it was sketchy, and I said, no big deal, we're gonna be good. And sure enough, we went and grabbed some pizza. 2 hours later, we came back. Our front our driver's side door was shattered open, the window. The window behind that was shattered open, and our entire van, everything we owned was taken out. I'm talking 2 MacBook Pros, all of our clothes, anything we packed, 100% gone. So I say that to say a couple things. One, they do make a protective film that you can put on your windows that if someone tries to break it, it won't shatter. So that's a really cool product to look into. 2, I'd recommend putting security stickers on your van, you know, and a good alarm system. So if something like that happens, alarms are going off. And 3, you can actually even add a small camera system to your unit just to prevent people from seeing it as a giant bullseye. I mean, if you think about it, people know, hey, this is a camper van. It looks really nice. There's probably a bunch of nice stuff in it. And if there's not a lot of deterrence, you might find yourself in that same situation. And then secondly, this story is kind of could have been very scary. So we were in Lake Tahoe camping with a friend, and we parked in front of their Airbnb rental. We were in our Dodge ProMaster, and it was nighttime, and I asked my wife, I said, okay, let's go ahead and lock the doors. And she went and she pressed a button, but it was not the lock button. And so the doors were actually unlocked. So we went to bed, and in the middle of the night, I hear just a pulling right on our back door. And this was right after our previous trip where we got broken into. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm getting out of this industry. This is terrible. Like someone is trying to rob us and I might get killed. So I throw the blankets in the air, like I'm yelling, my wife's yelling, like I'm in my boxers, don't get a visual, but I'm freaking out, okay? And so we run to the front of the car and we're trying to look outside the windows, but the problem is this, the door opened, our interior lights then turned on, and all we're seeing is our reflection. So we have no idea if it's like a gang of people or one individual, or do they have a gun? Like we had no clue, and we had zero self-defense. So side note, carry self-defense. And so I just hopped into the driver's seat, and my only thought was we can't be a sitting duck, we have to move. So I turned the car on, I put this thing in reverse, start backing out, and we kind of take off down the road, and I got my high beams trying to see if I see anyone, didn't see anyone, and basically called my buddies in the Airbnb and just said, hey guys, I think we just, someone just tried to rob us. Like we're freaking out. We're gonna come sleep in the house, and let's turn all the lights on out front and park the van overnight. So we did that, okay? Now, a little bit later the next day, we're talking to the neighbor, we're telling him this story, and he says, hey, I have cameras that are facing towards your camper van where it was parked. So we say, well, let's look at the footage. Maybe we can see who this was. And as we look through the footage, we saw someone, and they were furry, and there was another furry friend with them, and they were not people. It was a mama bear and a cub. So talk about, I think that's worse than a robber. So all that to say, there's risks, there's liabilities. We found out actually later that day that that bear literally like pulled doors, right? Like it was smart. And it got into another van, and it got into the van, and it didn't cause a ton of damage, but it caused damage because it was just trying to find food. So these are risks, these are liabilities you take when you get into the RV rental business. But want you to be aware of some of them. And I can say after doing this for a year, we've been through some challenges. We've had our repairs we've had to do. But by and large, it's worth it. And I think one thing I'm learning as well is there's different types of units that you can be renting that carry different type of risk with that, right? If you're doing a small little vintage trailer and your investment's 10 grand or 15 grand, you have very low risk. And even if someone damages it, it's not going to be that bad. And if they do, it's going to get covered, right? If you have a $150,000 Mercedes Sprinter, you might need to think twice, right? Like I don't know if renting it out is the absolute best option. And if it is, you just need to make sure you're comfortable with the level of risk, that the nightly rental you're getting is sufficient for the risk you're taking on, and that security deposit you're getting is enough in case you do run into some damage. But with that, I hope this was really insightful and really helpful for any of you that are looking to do RV rentals. Excited to get you more information on this kind of topic as well. I'd encourage you to check us out on alternativeliving-spaces.com to see everything that we're up to. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.